Hey guys, welcome to the Shooter's Mindset. Obviously, I'm not Jen. We've got a pretty interesting double episode today. This is episode 452 with the 2024 and 2023 PRS champions, Ben Gossett and Kahl Harmon. But before we do that, let's introduce our co-hosts who can save me from my voice now. Camden Powers, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, Corey. How are you?
Little bit nervous. The hey guys always gets me.
Yeah, I got those butterflies going.
Little bit shaking like a leaf.
Okay. All
Yeah,
right. Good job, though. Good job. Solid effort.
thanks. Yeah, how have you been? You shoot?
No, haven't shot in a few weeks, but I think next week I'm going to try and hit a matchup. Hopefully, my finger is itchy to pull some triggers, so I know it's coming soon.
Nice.
Yeah.
I know Greg's been shooting. Greg, how have you been?
I haven't been shooting at all, but I am as well can be. How have you
Good.
been,
Well, I
Corey?
shot
Have you
enough
been shooting?
matches. I've shot enough matches for both of you guys. I shot three last weekend.
That is true.
All right. So nobody cares about us. Let's talk about you guys. Ben, Kahl, how are y'all doing?
Been good. Good, good.
Awesome. So before we get into all the stuff that I care about, let's talk about what everyone else cares about. What caliber did you win the series with this year, Ben?
I shot a 6 mm dasher.
Okay, cool. And second place?
First loser. Yeah, no, I 6 GT still.
Okay, cool. So for everyone that's unfamiliar with you guys, why don't you tell everyone about yourselves and kind of how you got interested in shooting and how you got into the sport?
Go first or me? Or don't
Mm.
matter.
I was talking to you.
I'll go first. Ben
Yeah,
Gossett.
you won, so
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm moral support. He actually asked me if I would do the podcast with him because he's very self-aware and he understood how monotonous and dry this would be. I mean, despite his glowing, very outgoing personality.
That's the first of many like cover-ups of his mouth. He can't stop talking. No, I'm just kidding.
Just remember, you did ask for this.
I think it would be a fun time. But yeah, Ben Gossett. I'm originally from Warrenton, Missouri. Right now, living out in Columbus, Georgia. I've been out there for about 8 years now. I started shooting actually the start of 2014 and got into just 1 day matches and started my first 2 day PRS match in 2015. And really shot that first one and just got completely hooked, fell in love with the sport, fell in love with the crowd of people. And this was my 75th Pro Series match. And I've been kind of hunting for this like top spot for a really, really long time. So it was nothing but, just a sweet victory that I was able to enjoy. And I'm still enjoying it. It's still kind of it's such a rare opportunity that you get to get first place in a match that's the most prestigious match of the year in a sport that's just gotten so incredibly competitive. So, I mean, I'm still just like kind of living on cloud nine with it. So,
That's awesome.
that's fantastic. 75 matches is
yeah.
quite a few, and to stick
Mhm.
with it like that is pretty awesome.
Mhm.
So Kahl, how'd you get into shooting?
I think a lot of like my kind of shooting background started from the military. Spent a lot of my time growing up in like the Marine Scout Sniper community, and then that kind of evolved into competition. I think like a lot of military guys, right? You shoot your first PRS competition, you get beat by a dentist and a 15-year-old girl, and you hit a crossroad in your career where you either figure out how this never ever happens again or you quit. So I chose the kind of first road with that and kind of dedicated myself to it. I shot my first pro match ever was in I was actually at Texas Precision with you guys. It was in 2021. Shot the best in Texas. So 2021 was my first match, and I kind of went all in, and I was very fortunate to have a very, very good PRS community to grow into. I still will stick by my guns and say that kind of Navasota, Anderson Outlaw, Texas kind of culture there is second to none in the country. So I feel like I owe a lot to them out there. And yeah, that kind of helped shape me into a lot of what it is. And then I was very fortunate to get picked up by AMU, and that kind of I'd say that fast tracked some of my success, like having people like Ben, to kind of bounce ideas off and learn under, and having him spin up my barrels. Like, I mean, honestly, 1 out of every 5 barrels I got from him was halfway decent.
Okay.
So, like,
It's fantastic. I mean,
no.
you said a lot of cool stuff there, but going kind of back to Texas, you're wearing the gravestone shirt. It's
Yep.
at this point, it's only getting better. There's a ton of new places to shoot this next year.
Yeah, and I actually, man, I haven't made it out there yet, but kind of shout out to Jake Graves there. He's a great friend of mine, good dude. When I was kind of balling on a budget there, like, still trying to work in between deployments and go shooting, I traveled with Jake a couple times, and he's always been an awesome, solid dude. So I've heard and seen some pictures from his facility out there, and I know he talked to me before he bought it. So I don't know. It's the Texas PRS scene is huge, and it's only getting bigger.
Yeah, him and Jeremy will do some cool stuff. So for those, I guess, viewers that don't know, you're both on the AMU, and you both kind of had a maybe non-traditional path getting there. Could you talk about that, kind of how you started and progressed?
Yeah. I'll start. So I started out shooting, kind of go back to my original story. I was starting in 2015 in the Marine, basically just when I got out of the Marine Corps, and then I was civilian side, and I shot for a little bit, and then I got recruited out of gunsmith school in 2016, and it was kind of like really the luck of the draw. I got recruited straight into the gunsmith section in the AMU, and I didn't necessarily or technically shoot for the unit for the first couple of years. I kind of had to not really fight, but just shoot and gain a little bit of experience, and then finally got kind of asked to shoot for the team around 2018, when I started to get a lot of success kind of back to back in a row. And it's all progressed from there. And yeah, I mean, it's two totally kind of polar opposite sort of worlds that I have versus Kahl. I'm still full-time gunsmith. He's full-time shooter. But I mean, it's not like I'm on the lathe just stuck all day. I get to go out and shoot a lot, and I have a lot of opportunity to train. But
Yeah, that's a pretty cool deal. What's it like being a gunsmith at the AMU?
it's different every day. We have quite a few sections that I work with. Mainly I'm kind of basically in charge of the PRS section. So I do Kahls and myself, and Scott just retired, but
Oh,
Scott
congrats.
Peterson. Yeah, Scott just retired, but was doing his tactical barrels. And along with that, kind of the NRL side. So we got a service rifle section that I do a little bit of that with. Kahl and Tyler do a little bit of NRL stuff, but a lot of the section is involved in 22 small bore. So we just actually had our first silver medal winner, Sage and Madalena. She crushed this last year's Olympics, and do a lot of air gun stuff, shotgun stuff. It's a really diverse section that every day is a little bit different than the next.
Yeah, that's a huge deal for small bore too. That's like hyper competitive worldwide.
It's very unreal, like the amount of involvement that like China and Russia have, and the resources they have, and like just the personnel that they can send at it is pretty unreal. So we're super stoked for her this year.
So, Kahl, how did you kind of get into the AMU? What was your path?
Kind of, I wouldn't say it was happenstance, but I I think it kind of maybe speaks volumes about like the tight knit PRS community, because it was actually word of mouth, is how it happened. So Scott Peterson had a pretty good relationship with Prentice Wink, and they were just kind of cutting it up one day on the phone, kind of nothing business related. And Prentice, I guess, used to joke with Scott, like, oh, is AMU hiring or whatever? And, you know, Scott's rebuttal would be like, yeah, but you got to pass a PT test, you know, and that was kind of like their like going joke. And Prentice had asked him one time, and Scott's like, yeah, actually, we are. Like, do you know any good active duty guys? And Prentice was joking. He's like, yeah, actually, I do, believe it or not. It was when my wife was working out of Texas, and so we were there currently, and I actually had just joined the Army again and was kind of going a different route through that after working in the private sector for a couple of years. And so they kind of, Prentice had hit me up and it's like, hey, are you familiar with this organization, or, you know, AMU and what they do? And I had no idea who they were, but I had like a little bit more disposable income at the time. So I was pretty immersed in the PRS community and a lot of the East Coast Scout Sniper world over there. Jordan Davis and some of those other guys that I grew up with, like I was helped out, like I was set in the right direction from the get-go, which I think helped a lot. You know what I mean? Like my first PRS gun ever was a 6.5 by 47 Lapua. And it was a Bartline barrel that was done properly with the Burger, you know, 130 hybrid. So like I never started with garbage stuff. And then my second get up was with Aaron Roberts. And after I was approached by Scott, and he asked me, hey, do you want to shoot for a living? And I was like, you can't shoot for a living. He's like, well, if you win, you do. And so I was like, well, yeah, so I had kind of gone to, you know, Aaron Roberts, Jake Graves, Ruben Chiata, like that kind of whole group of guys, Chris Kutalik, and was like, you know, what do I need to do to be successful? You know, because I at least was smart enough to know that I didn't know anything. And they were like, yeah, like buy 3 Bart lines at the same time, have Aaron spin them all up, buy as much, you know, 105s and Varga as you can afford, and start there. So I did. And, you know, I was very fortunate that I didn't have like a steep learning curve gear wise. I did with some other things, you know, I had an old shift and bender forever that broke like most people. So, you know, there's some learning curves with stuff like that. But no, I was fortunate to start off on the right foot. And, you know, AMU is it's a great place. I think the only kind of thing that maybe people don't know is probably 60% of what I do is actually teaching, not competing. So there's this preconceived notion that I shoot every day, and on curling range where we work, actually the furthest range is 140 yards. So there's if we go to Shelton Range, which is owned by our instructor training group, which is a dedicated group of individuals that just teach. A lot of former Ranger Regiment guys and stuff like that. It goes out to 500 yards, but it's kind of like going over to somebody else's house and asking if you can use their field. So it's they're super accommodating, but it's just a little bit of a inconvenience. So we don't really shoot as often, I think, as people think we do at all. So primarily what I do is teaching. Kind of like how Ben would agree, primarily what he does is gunsmithing, and then we both compete kind of as a caveat to that.
Yeah, definitely good advice coming from those guys. Buy a shit ton of stuff and just start shooting.
Yeah.
I don't think it was till years later that I still, like, if people ask what I wanted, like, if you could shoot anything, what would you shoot? I was like, probably a Bartline barrel with 105s and Varget and just shoot it after. But, you know, probably exactly what I started with. Yeah, so I was very, very fortunate to have those guys in my corner.
That's awesome.
Definitely.
It's cool watching the involvement of the sport, because when I started shooting, there were so many different guys shooting so many different calibers. And I think, I mean, not to speak for you, but when you started shooting, the caliber game was kind of figured out, the bag game was kind of figured out. Like it got to a point where it's
like the back in my day conversation.
Yeah, back in my day, it was like back in my day, we were like shooting with slings. We weren't shooting with like support bags on barricades. It was crazy.
This is before you guys threaded muzzles, right?
Yeah, Well, it's funny that you mentioned that, because the first match I shot with, I didn't even have one. So it really is like, but it's cool to see. Like
he had a mill reticle with minute turrets.
Exactly.
Thank God, yes.
Yeah. He would take his sock off and fill it with sand on the side.
Oh
of
yeah,
the
we
page.
On the
we
clock.
filled our shooting bags with beans.
You know, I wasn't going to make the comment about two Marines coming on as the AMU representation here, but we really are kind of threading right into that conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of surprising. You'd be surprised how many Marines
There's a
there
lot.
actually in the AMU. Like it's such an easy recruitment process because like there's no basic training or advanced schools associated with recruiting. It's just kind of like recruit and come straight in and start doing work for us. So it's cool.
Yeah. And the question, hey, you guys want to shoot more guns?
What's that?
Just the question, you guys want to shoot more guns? Who's going to say no?
Right, exactly. It's a hard thing to say no to.
Yeah, I think my favorite comment all the time is like from, we're talking about it earlier, you know, because like the Marine Corps birthday was recently, and like a lot of people are just, you know, we're both proud of our time in the Marine Corps. Like it was great. Hey, probably helped shape us into the people that we are, but like it doesn't define us and we don't live by it. Like we've kind of moved on past that. Whereas like a lot of other people, it's their whole identity, and there's nothing wrong with that. You know what I mean? It's just different folks, different strokes. But we get a lot of those people sometimes like, oh man, don't you miss the Corps? And I'm like, no, the grass is pretty green over here.
It's kinda
Like,
nice.
yeah, it's kind of nice. Like, yeah.
Oh, that's
If I do, it's just Stockholm syndrome.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
well, to explain a little bit more on the AMU, you guys have kind of explained a little bit of what you do there, but what would a day in the office look like for you guys? Does that change throughout the year, or has it changed throughout your career, or is it pretty steady?
I mean, like I said earlier, day to day for me is really it's unique and different. Typical Army stuff, we still have to do that as well as like our extracurricular activities. So, I mean, it's not to bore you to death, but we got like regular Army stuff where we got to do PT and mandatory training and all sorts of that, and it occupies a lot of time. But as far as I go, it's really based on shooter's needs. Whatever shooter needs, you know, their gun fixed or whatever, they come in and we fix them as quick and efficiently as we possibly can. So
That's really cool.
mhm.
Yeah.
I like that it's unique every day. It's you never really know what you're gonna get whenever you walk in.
Those are the best jobs.
Yeah, it's not monotonous at all.
Yeah.
So that's cool.
That
And
is.
to expand on what Ben said, like I will never give him credit to his face, but since there's other people involved, like they are super accommodating. Like the amount of times that I come in and I ask Ben if he can do something, and like he, you know, he does my barrels the same way he would his, you know. And I appreciate it, you know. Yeah, and it's no, it's like it's something that I never really had before. I never had like that relationship like that with the gunsmith, and like I think it adds like another level to it where like when you do have success, you know, it's more of a shared success.
Mhm.
Like it's kind of like, hey, we did it, like thanks man, you know. And I like it's good, like I like it a lot. I know like even like he was talking about, you know, one of the other shooters on our team that shot the Olympics, and I know like I helped Ben do some of the lock testing for the gun. And it was more so just because, you know, he's a friend and we just kind of wanted to, you know, shoot the stuff and hang out. But it was like, you know, his level of how much he cares that her gun is perfect, you know, that's a big deal. You know what I mean? And like that kind of love of labor is hard to find anywhere, but in AMU, it's actually very common.
Mhm.
So you have all these different kind of disciplines, but everybody's incredibly passionate about their own disciplines. Now, we will always talk trash on the other disciplines, you know, like joke around on them, but like, you know, like it's but no, they're all very, very good at what they do.
It's a unique place that we don't get paid by the hour. We get paid by, you know, the quality of the work that we put out. And every barrel I do, my mindset is this barrel could be the next golden bullet barrel, whether I'm shooting it or Kahl shooting it or whoever's shooting it, or this could be the next gold medal, you know, barrel. Like it's just such a cool place to work at. And like he said, shared success is huge. like, even though, you know, I had a terrible finale last year, he won the finale and it was still with my barrel. So that's really cool to say that, you know, AMU has 2 back-to-back gold or, you know, PRS Golden Bullet barrels.
Yeah.
I take a lot of pride in that.
They have 3 total.
Should. That's great.
Yeah, and AMU has 3 golden bullets now.
Mm-hmm.
Between T-Pain, myself, and Ben. So
Mm-hmm.
it's good. It was but no, to answer your question, Camden, like my day-to-day, mine's a little bit more different, I guess. Like today, we're actually like potentially looking at a new prospect to take over John Browning's spot in USPSA. So he's out for the week. So our pistol guys are kind of running him through some stuff. So we had like a kind of a questionnaire type deal where it was basically an interview process. And I asked him some uncomfortable questions and we kind of joked around, and the pistol guys took him on the range and shot with him. That can be like one day, but normally my work days are kind of like the weekends. Like my middle of the work week days are normally, it's not a 9 to 5 at all for me. Cause again, we primarily travel and teach.
Yeah.
So we, our kind of purpose in a lot of ways is that there's a leapfrogging process that happens between the civilian and military complex as far as marksmanship abilities go. So the reason we exist is we compete in the open divisions, learn what's applicable, and we bring it back to a lot of our JSOC and SOCOM partners. So we work with them, we teach them, we find things that we're doing, and because of that, we've actually helped a lot of them ease into competition. So there's a lot of those guys now that shoot under odd names or aliases at some of these matches, and they're operational guys that are competing, and they do it, they throw themselves out there, they have the courage to lose, to look foolish, but they're learning over time and they're getting better and better and better. And when they go back to their units, I mean, they're skull dragging everybody. So, you know, we work with a lot of those guys. I had a call with one of them tonight, and, you know, a West Coast guy, and it's good. You know, it really, really is. It's the part of the competition's great, but the teaching side of things, I think, is what kind of fulfills the part, like, you know, like the way that Ben does gunsmithing, you know, that like love of labor and the satisfaction of knowing the craftsmanship he does could win the next whatever, you know, or like it's the same way with us with teaching. Like we love competition, that kind of feeds our soul, but the other half of our job is probably what keeps us fulfilled to an extent.
Yeah, the next thing you teach could save someone's life, so it's,
Yeah,
I mean, it's
Yeah.
huge. Yeah, which gets lost in the AMU. Like that's kind of overall the big picture, especially in our sections, is, you know, competition to combat sort of mindset, and it's just kind of giving back more than anything. It kind of gets put in the shadows more than anything.
it does, and it's because a lot of people that we work with and teach, you can't publicize it necessarily. So
Right.
because of that, it takes kind of a back burner. It kind of gets lost in the, you know, like a lot of times people look at AMU and only see shotgun and, you know, like IR stuff, and that's all they see. It's kind of unfortunate, but it just is what it is. Whereas there's a large other side to it, and guys that are traveling a lot, helping guys, kind of like the unsung hero side of it to an extent, I guess. But
Well, that's really cool. Thanks, guys. That's
Mhm.
awesome. And then what is it like for you two to both be competing, same discipline, and like it's essentially almost like a training partner where, you know, I'm sure Ben, you were alongside Cal last year, and Gail, you're alongside Ben this year during successes. Like, what is that like? Does it drive your competitiveness? Like, okay, gotta beat him because we're neck and neck, or
It's not like a direct competition sort of thing for me. We don't really get afforded the opportunity to train a whole lot actually together, since we're kind of in 2 completely different sections.
right?
But as far as like driving the competition desire, it's the way I progressed and evolved over my shooting career is I've never tried to beat any individual shooter. It's always just competition versus myself. And that's the most satisfying thing, because I've lost plenty of matches where I shot very well to the best of my ability, got a little bit of a rough draw, like with the conditions, but that's the point in my career where I was kind of like satisfied a little bit. And if I was going to do the flip side where I was competing versus someone, it's just not very satisfying. So I really just try and shoot against myself.
Yeah. Like,
yeah, if I'm gonna be completely transparent, like when I first showed up, it was kind of an odd relationship to an extent because my competition made my guns, you know? And so it definitely was weird because I showed up as like the new guy that, if we're gonna be frank, I really hadn't accomplished anything. And then you walk into, you know, a position where you're expected to, like the room of people I work with on the action shooting team, like they're all national champions, every single one of them. You know, so like, you know, like I lost it this year, and like the response in the team isn't like, hey man, congrats, like you tried hard. It's like, yeah, hey man, like, you know, good shooting, but you lost. And that's how it is. And I don't think a lot of PRS people understand that. They don't. And it's just, it's different. It's good, right? Like I enjoy that side of it, right? Because you don't really get like unnecessary affirmation, right? Like I tell a lot of people that in a lot of ways, like people telling you you're doing good all the time and you're not, it's not positive. Right? It's not. Like when people are like, oh, great shooting, it's like, man, you took 10th place, like not really, you know. And I know that's just a mindset shift, but I think I can speak for at least everybody that took a top 10 bullet this year that they all think that way. Every single one of them do. So when I showed up at the unit, like, yeah, it was a little bit intimidating, right? Like Ben's a stud, he can shoot, you know. So there was a lot of kind of not intimidation, but like a reputation to live up to. So like, did I compare myself against him? Yeah, absolutely. But was it for the best? Probably. I know Ben probably really enjoyed a lot more than he'll admit playing mind games with me for about a year and a half.
I mean,
maybe.
yeah, I mean, there will be mind games, but
Yeah.
I mean that goes to caveat, like just on not just action shooting sports, but across the entire unit. Like there's national champions in every single discipline, so it's a place that you kind of got to stay humble and just focused on your individual task. But it's very, I think, important that we have people that are elite in every sort of category to push ourselves. I think that's what just keeps the drive kind of alive.
Yeah, but no, Ben had mentioned earlier, I think in February I'll be at AMU. That'll be my 3rd year. And I think since I've been there, we've shot maybe a dozen times together. Maybe. So it's not like what people think it is, you know what I mean? But
So then do you, like throughout the year, you can choose what matches you go to versus matches you don't. Do you have like a minimal match count that you have to attend each year?
I don't really have a minimal. I kind of have a set budget that I can use, and it's very flexible for my personal shooting career. So typically I can shoot 7 or 8 matches a year, and I kind of just shoot what I kind of want to shoot. We don't really even go through. I don't get with Kahl or anybody on the shooting teams and ask what they're shooting. I just kind of pick and choose kind of my schedule a little bit, which is nice.
That is definitely.
most of the time I figure out that Ben and I are shooting at the same match when we show up at Columbus Airport. Like 6 in the morning, and we're like, oh man, you're shooting this match? He's like, yeah. I'm like, well, great. I hope you do okay. Yeah. That's
Oh man.
no, we have a pretty good amount of flexibility. Our team chiefs are like pretty decent about letting us kind of have free reign with what we shoot, you know, within reason. This past year, Tyler Payne and I dabbled in some of the team division stuff. So we shot the NRL team division just to kind of dip our toes in the water and kind of see how we liked it and stuff like that. Because it does have a lot more relevancy to some of the lethality training and real world applicability with sniper teams that we work with in gear management and stuff like that. So I enjoy that side of it. It's a lot more fun, to be honest with you. It's also a lot less competitive. I don't think the level of competition there is what it is in PRS. And I tell people to kind of maintain street credibility to an extent. Like the PRS is still the NFL of precision rifle, right? It's still the big league. Like the best shooters in the world are in PRS. So I think this next year I'm gonna kind of rededicate myself just to PRS. I'm gonna just teach and shoot PRS as much as I can and give it another real good run.
Nice.
Losing sucks.
Losing sucks.
Um,
So speaking about losing, tell us about the finale.
Are you talking to me, huh?
Oh yeah, back to our conversation earlier.
He's not talking to
I'm
you.
looking right at you now, but my camera's over here. So
Yeah. Good job, Greg. Way to kick a dog when he's down. No, it was man, if I'll be honest, I had a real rough go this year. Just dealing with some kind of equipment stuff and kind of inadequacies that I was settling on, and it took me a while to kind of it was pretty damaging, I guess, maybe to like my confidence, and it took me a little bit of time to kind of work it out. Like I kind of finished the end of last year with the same stuff I was using, shot strong, and then kind of the middle of this year I hit a rut, and I was really questioning my own abilities and if I was seeing things right, making the right corrections. And it was tough. It was very, very tough. But kind of the end of the year, I kind of got some things worked out. Ben was a big help making sure that I went into the finale kind of as good as I could be. And I mean, I shot the finale with no excuses. Like, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I missed a single shot because of gun or ammo or this or that. That would be completely false. Like I shot, I don't know. Like I shot my match, and I don't think I left anything out there. I forget. I think Clay was telling me you had to win by 3, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. So he had to win by 3 to beat me, and he beat me by 7. So like, could I sit here and shoulda, woulda, coulda, how I could make up 4 points? Yeah, I guess I could. But the reality of it is the amount of difficult stages that I shot that I also did really well on. It could have easily swung the other way.
Mhm.
I mean, the important thing to take away from here is that I beat Bushman by 0.429%, and I'm not going to let him forget that. That's the important takeaway from this. So Bushman, if you're listening, you lost. But no, it's no, in all seriousness, like it was a lot of people were like, man, you almost did back to back, like, almost. And I was like, yeah, I mean, that's 100% correct, but also too, like, should I be so fortunate? Like, look at how many phenomenal shooters placed 11th place and below.
Mhm.
Right.
Like, look at that stack of names. Look at the amount of shooters that are out of the top 10 that went into this with a 300.
Mhm.
Yeah. And how many previous champions, right?
Oh,
There's
absolutely.
a lot.
Oh, yeah. Like you look at squad 1 and it's like you put all of us in a jar and Yahtzee us every different day of the week. Every single one of us has beat everybody else.
Mhm.
And our sport still has so much to chance and environmentals and just other things that it's like, like, does it hurt a little bit? Yeah, I mean, it should, right? But at the same time, like, I have no regrets. I have no anything. If I'm going to be completely frank, if I had to lose to somebody, like, I'm glad it's her. No, it was man, he's had a long, good career, and it was long overdue. So I'm happy for him. It was good.
0.479%.
429. Yeah.
429.
I
Is that
thought
better
about
or worse
sending
than a
Bushman.
dollar
I thought
bill?
about sending Bushman a card with nothing else on it other than
That would be hilarious. That was just funny.
It's only because Austin probably had one of the best single PRS seasons that I think I've ever seen anybody have.
Mhm.
He shot unreal. We were talking about the other day. I want to say he had 13 matches in a row where he placed no lower than 3rd place.
Yeah.
Including the World Championships, including the money match at Twisted Barrel. Like, I mean, he's one of the best there is. So
Mhm.
if he wasn't that, I wouldn't be making the jokes that I'm making, but
Yeah.
I gotta kick him while he's down a little bit.
Yeah,
That's what we all really strive for in this sport anyway, is consistency more than anything.
That's probably the biggest compliment you can get.
Yeah, absolutely. That you're not going to win every single match, but as long as you're close to towards the top, I mean, that's a win. And I think as far as any of the top 10 bullet winners this year or any year, it's a win. I mean, someone has to get second, someone has to get, second through 10th or whatever. So, I mean, I would be proud any year getting 1st through 10th or whatever.
sure.
I've gotten 11th 2 years in a row a couple years ago, and it's painful. It doesn't feel like you are as satisfied as like a top 10 bullet, because that's just a huge accomplishment. So getting second, I mean, first and second 2 years in a row is crazy. I'm very fortunate to be able to get a bullet at all, but getting first place bullet is still surreal.
That's
Sure.
wild.
Mhm.
Says the man that cleaned an entire day at AG Cup.
Yeah, and I'm really
What a jerk.
yeah, I know. It's such a world of difference too, like in the match style and everything like that.
Yeah. Okay.
As far as precision rifle shooting, tactical rifle shooting, practical rifle shooting, whatever you want to call it, a golden bullet has always been the goal. It wasn't ever really the AG Cup. That kind of just like fell into place on that particular single day, which they'll always have like a really special place to my heart, because it was basically impossible what happened, and it was a very like spiritual day for me. But this, first place golden bullet is always what I've been after more than anything, honestly.
Do you remember what you said to me? Like the second stage of day 2? After you cleaned the stage and you walked off and looked at me, do you remember what you said?
Yes.
I want you to tell them.
I'm not gonna tell them.
Oh,
We say a lot of silly stuff.
Dude, yeah, I don't think people would ever. It's like all these comments and stuff of people being like, "Man, Ben's the nicest, most humble guy in the PRS," and like every time I read these, I don't want to be disrespectful to people, but I'm like, you must not be that good of friends with him. Ben is one of the most arrogant people I've ever met. He's just quiet about it, and the circle stays small. But yeah, he got off the stage, looked at me straight face, stone cold. He's like, "Daddy's back."
Ben, I have a question because I've never seen you in person. Approximately how tall and how much do you weigh? Because Kahl
Daddy?
is not someone that I would say that to.
Oh, I mean,
Was that question directed to me?
I think
No,
so.
Ben.
I'm 6'1" and 175. He's got me by
Okay.
100 pounds.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like 6'5" in heels. No,
Yeah.
I think no, I'm like about 6'3" or so, but
That's what's so fun about this sport, like the relationships that you build and like all the silly trash talk that you have. A lot of people say or see and envision squads 1 and 2 and 3 or whatever as being like ultra competitive and just like cutthroat the entire time. But we're all like the best of friends. We're all just like constantly just playing with each other. It's so fun.
And I think that's one of the things that got me so addicted to the sport, is just like, seeing the top level shooters and how they interact with each other and other people. It's awesome. You guys can be trash talking, but also like, if one of the top 10 has an issue, like the other top 9 will probably help them fix that issue.
For sure. Yeah.
And then try and whoop their buttons, trash talk them after.
you want to beat everybody on their best day.
Mm-hmm.
Like you don't want to beat anybody half cocked, or like you don't want to beat anybody with an asterisk, right? Like I know, like we've all had it, right? Where you're in contention for a win with somebody, and like they bomb a stage, something goes down. Like that's never the way you want to win. Like you want to beat everybody when they were at their best,
Yeah.
So it was very special at this match how many guys that are ultra competitive, right on your heels all the time throughout the season and throughout years and years, but all just came up, congratulated. I don't know how many guys that I literally shedded a tear with, that we're all just so happy for each other. And man, what a cool community. You don't get that, I don't think, anywhere else.
Yeah, when you shot your last stage, I was up there and just looked around, and there were so many spectators, and they're all cheering for you. And yeah, that was really cool to see, and just the support. Like you guys were competing against each other, but I think it was, I can't remember who it was, but someone had their phone out videoing your victory moment and going
Yeah.
hugs. Like that's so amazing, and that's what
Mhm.
you'll remember years to come.
For sure.
That's how you know people like Ben a lot more than me. Because when I won, there was like none of that. Like we were joking around the PRS. There's like 4 posts and all these videos and these paragraphs of like, dude, the Golden Bullet's so prestigious. Ben, we were rooting for you. And when I won, there's a sentence. It says, "Big congrats to our 2023 Golden Bullet winner." I was like, well, I definitely lost the popular vote.
I
But
mean,
Ben's a lot more likable, so I understand that.
Well, I
Kahl,
think
have you tried
live streaming
smiling?
made it good.
No, it's probably because everyone knew about 5 stages ahead of time that you were gonna win.
it was maybe so.
Yeah.
Yeah, the live scoring. I mean, I know all the
Yeah.
spectators had the app and they were watching, and I mean, it was pretty like, Ben, you were either going to get first or second, like throughout, like it was solidified like halfway through the day. And
Yeah, and I mean
That's what's so cool about like that live scoring. It just adds such a dynamic that it makes it more of a spectator sport.
Yeah.
Because before that, there was it was kind of just like wait until late Sunday night to find out who won. Now, everybody in the world, if they choose to, they can go on and see how guys are shooting shot by shot. It's really, really cool.
Yeah, and I know you know this, Corey, specifically, that like a lot of that's adapted from like USPSA and stuff, right? Like they have live scoring, like every time they get done, they upload it. Cause I know like Jacob and Aaron on our team, they'll talk about it where like they literally get done with the stage, walk over and check and see like where that puts them. And I mean, everyone's different. Like I said, I'm not particularly a big fan of checking it at all. I'll do my best actually not to, especially when people in my squad like, "Oh, dude, you see it?" I'm like, "Dude, just stop." Like, match is still going. Like, I'll talk to you when I'm done. But like, I mean, it is from like he was saying, from a spectator perspective, like PRS is like about as bad as it gets as far as the spectator sport goes. Like it's you watch somebody shoot and an RO yell impact and it's not super exciting. So I think the live scoring definitely adds like more of a dramatic element to it. So I think that's definitely a good sustain.
It's hard to put it into context too, like
Sure,
the complexity of a stage when you're shooting it, specific target sizes and all that. It's just hard to It's hard to see from a spectator standpoint how difficult some stages are.
Yeah, I know, like from like a semi-ignorant perspective, right? Like family members or friends watching it, like I think the only perspective they ever remotely got of like a PRS match in targets was actually like the AG Cup last year that Shooter Mindset did, because you guys had the target cam plus us shooting. Sure. That was like the first time that they ever actually got like a little bit of like what was actually going on. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that was really cool. Really, really cool.
It's like a side tangent to that. I know you guys would never put like a trigger cam on anything while you're competing, but do you think it would make it helpful if someone shot the stages beforehand so you at least knew what they were shooting at and what a reticle looked like? Because without the reticle and the shooter, it's good, like you see the target move, but do you think it's really what the sport is without that perspective?
You could even do it if you had a scope that wasn't even mounted on a gun. You could put a trigger cam that was mounted on a tripod or something like that. Like use a 7-35 ATAC or like whatever, like a Gen 3 Razor or something like that. And you could put a trigger cam on like a tripod mounted scope to give like, you could have like Greg's view from last year, which was like on a spotter, right? Where you can see it really well. And then you could have like a shooter's perspective of what they're looking at through their scope that could give perspective to it. Because like you said, right? Like if you tell somebody like, oh, they're shooting a 6-inch circle at 600 yards, people are like, oh, well, that's a minute. My gun shoots a minute. It's like, okay, yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, off a barricade, under a clock, and dynamic winds with a little bit of mirage, and then you get some weather in there that like 1 minute gets smaller and smaller and smaller.
Yeah. Yeah, I've seen Kit look a Bluetooth from a trigger cam and actually show guys like how he's holding wind. So I'd love to see it, but I don't know if it'd be competitive still.
I almost wonder if we could have somebody like at AG there's so many shooters so much better than me that are like not quite AG level. but are, you know, either not shooting this year or whatever. There's always like good shooters just hanging around that aren't competing. Maybe I could give one of them like a gun with a trigger cam on it and be like, all right, let's have this person shoot this stage real quick in between other people shooting.
Kind of cool.
Yeah, sometimes they'll do like sponsorship slots too. Like I know they did that in some of the early days for like big matches, for like if there's like a big title sponsor or something like that, they'll put like a sponsor shooter into the match that won't necessarily be in contention for prize winnings or anything, but they're there just for the experience, or to write an article, or to do whatever, like a write-up or something like that. I know that's fairly common. They could do something like that maybe.
Yeah.
It's like any sort of like Olympic sport where the elite are battling against the elite, like all the track and field sports. Like if you were to compare like the average runner versus those top 100 meter sprinters, it would be really exciting, but they're all just all crazy fast. Now, you know, it's hard to get some sort of I don't know, comparison versus like average, but maybe that's just the way it'll always be. That's okay.
I mean, we could have me shoot, and then you'll see. So Ben, you were really excited and overcome with emotion at the end. At what point did you know you had a good chance of winning? And when you shot your last stage, I guess with everyone cheering, you knew you won.
I don't know if everyone knew I won. There wasn't that many people actually at that particular stage. I felt like halfway through day 2, I had a really good shot. I dropped 5 throughout my first 11 or 12 stages on day 1. What did we shoot? 11 stages?
Yeah.
So my first 11 stages, my first 10, I was down 2, and then I dropped 3 to end day 1 then. And then I was 4 or 5 stages into day 2 clean. And I had heard, you know, squad 1's right on our tails. So I hadn't heard anybody that was kind of even close at that point, and cleaned a really hard stage, in my opinion, off that tree branch and the rock.
Yeah. We unfortunately all watched that. Yeah, he cleaned it, and I think the exact words from one of the guys was like, "We're expletive." Like we watched him shoot it, and we all looked at each other. We're like, "Well, Ben's on it."
After that stage, I knew I had a shot at getting a golden bullet.
Yeah.
I knew I had a huge task at winning by at least 3, and I knew that, you know, we had another 5 stages to go. So I've shot long enough. Anything can happen, and I tried to be realistic, but I was also, you know, pretty excited that I had that chance, because I mean, this is 10 years now, and there's very few chances that I've had, and I knew that was one that I had to capitalize on. And I mean, it's just kind of a miracle that I was able to. It's a true testament to, you know, the training that I've had in the past and my equipment, and it was just kind of one of those weekends that was just meant to be.
Very awesome.
So Kahl kind of touched on something earlier about like getting into the point from competing to trying to win. Just buy a ton of stuff and practice. Is that something that you'd say would be universal? Like if you were to give someone one piece of advice where they want to go from competing in the PRS, doing well, to not being able to be beaten, what would you say to them?
I mean, it's such a dynamic sport, and it's so weird. Like that particular weekend, there's something about it when you know that you're in the hunt. There's something extra that comes out in you, that a different level of focus that you're just able to just get kind of, it's just easy. Like you get in that flow sort of state. As far as like your question is based on like a newer shooter, or what?
No, someone that like 50th to first
Okay.
and first consistently.
So anything around like the mid pack, you have to you basically have to eradicate mental mistakes.
Okay.
If you have mental mistakes, that's gonna just make your job so much harder. And I don't know if I have any advice other than just to spend less time socializing and more time like envisioning your stage. I don't know how many times that especially when I'm in the hunt, I try and
Yeah.
shoot the stage in my head 4 or 5 times before I even pull the trigger on that first shot, if that makes sense. So it takes a huge amount of focus and kind of dedication and a little bit of selfishness to not talk with your buddies that you don't get to spend a whole lot of time with throughout the year, which is tough because it's fun to talk to your guys, to your friends, but I think it's all just dedicated to extreme amount of focus and in envisioning what's about to happen, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I basically sent that exact same thing in a text. Someone had asked me, like, how do you mentally think about a stage? And I
Mhm.
told them I rehearse it in my mind 5 to 20 times before I've even shot it. Like
Mhm.
just every single sight picture, every single target in order, the time between transitions, all of it. So yeah, it makes perfect sense.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah,
kind of
it
a
kind of,
similar thing. Go ahead, sorry.
I was gonna say, like, I don't know, two things I think with that helped me. One, like, of the people, like, I got some good advice a while ago. And Ben had kind of almost paraphrased the exact same thing. But I was told that you can't always win, but you can always put yourself in a position to win. Like there is a certain amount of luck to our sport that's just going to do what it's going to do sometimes, and you can't always win because there is luck of the draw, there is environmentals, there is wherever, like whatever. But if you put yourself in a position where you are shooting good enough to win, if you do that often enough, the cards will fall in. And I think to do that, the baseline to do that is perfection. When I say that, I don't mean you, I mean your gun, your system, your everything. That like if you
Right.
go into it and your gun, your zero, your ammo, your everything isn't perfect, I promise you everybody else that could potentially win that match, theirs is.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
there's a lot of behind the scenes work that
Oh yeah,
you can't even really,
you can't quantify it.
yeah, you can't quantify it, especially on a talk, but
The amount of
it's
paper, like if you talk to Ben, right? Ben's big thing is 10 shot groups at 300. That's what he does. I do 2 to 3 shot or 2 to 3 5-shot groups at 500 just because of the way my house is set up. And I bet combined the amount of holes we put in paper at those distances is unreal.
mhm.
And it's not sexy, it's not cool, it's not awesome, but like it's, you know, because people always says, oh, it must be nice. I was like, yeah, sure, man. But like if you only knew, you
Mhm.
know, like if
Yeah.
you only knew. But that, and then I think the other thing is like for me, I'm not a big mental game guy. I don't really believe in it much, but like to me, if you think you're gonna win a match, like you can't, to me, you can't just tell yourself like, oh, I'm gonna win now. Like it doesn't work that way. You have to earn your wins. Like you have to know that like I'm going to win. And the only way that I feel that way is if I earn it. So everyone's different, whether that's having a perfect gun or a perfect load or putting the time in. But like, if you don't believe you're going to win, nobody else will.
I like a lot of that.
That
That's,
is really good.
yeah. Um, kind of the same thing, but a little bit different phrasing. If you had someone asking you how to get onto the AMU and how to get noticed, what would you tell them for advice on getting that kind of initial impression?
We should answer that both ways. I think you should answer for the gunsmithing side. Maybe if anybody's interested, I can answer for like the shooter side, maybe.
Gunsmith side is it's very unique because a slot has to open up in a specific section, and those sections require different skills with gunsmithing. My recruitment was straight up just kind of luck of the draw. There was a section open that kind of fit my unique skill set that I wanted to pursue. And there was a slot open. I mean, shooting side is a lot different. My opinion, I'll hit it real quick before you hit yours, but it's get out there, at least get out there, try and be as successful as you can. Success is great. It helps us to kind of it's attractive to us. Like we want to see guys that are winning or females that are winning. But it's mainly just be coachable and I mean dedicated and go ahead and hit.
Yeah. I mean, people have asked like, how do I submit an application? And it may sound very rude or blunt, but if we've never heard of your name before, you probably don't stand a very good shot. And that's just the God's honest truth, that most of the people that make it to our work have put the time and effort into where they've already kind of established themselves as, a force to be reckoned with, a sizable shooter, kind of however you want to put it, right? Like, I wouldn't say that I was an exception, but the only thing that I had going for me is like the first year that I ever shot PRS, I won a 2-day national match. So that kind of like Scott and Tyler had kind of said like, well, that's not very normal. So they were like, okay, and had asked how long I've been doing it. And then they actually were like, hey, well, what's a match that you're going to shoot that we can go to? And they actually RO'd it. They actually RO'd the Hornady PRC match. And so I went out there, which that was a big match. It was an AG Cup match. Like there's a lot of studs out there. And I shot that match also the first year that I started shooting PRS. I missed third place by a shot. I ended up in 6th place actually. But it was good because I got to meet them and they got to see me in like a pretty vulnerable environment and see how I operated and stuff. But I'll use this platform right now to throw this out there. Tyler Payne's been with the AMU for quite a while now. I think he's 14 years deep. He'll eventually be taking over one of the assistant team chief positions in kind of a more administrative role. He'll still be competing, but eventually if he rolls into our team chief spot in the next like 2 years or so, that really opens up another spot. So for the long range precision rifle section at AMU, we are trying to look to the future at potential candidates. So if there is somebody out there that's interested, in that kind of, whether you're kind of, I'd say at this point, maybe like 14 to 20-year-old range, if you're healthy, if you're fit, if you take care of yourself, if you're, if you're interested in what we can offer, I would say like dedicate yourself to the sport, right? Like show us that your performance will speak for itself. Like, this kid that we had, that we were interviewing today, I never heard of him, and that's just mainly because I don't shoot USPSA. But they had shown me some videos of this kid's draw time, and I mean it's unreal. Like the kid was shooting, like one shot draws that were like, like in the 5s, right? Like 55.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, like he was like right on par there with Jacob Hetherington. You watch, you're like, okay, that's impressive. Like, like he got the attention type thing, you know what I mean? So like you look at a kid like that and it's like he's put the time in, he's put the effort in, like he showed the self-drive and motivation that like all you need to do is give him an environment to cultivate and foster that type of talent and drive, and he will do well. And that's kind of what we're looking for, right? Like people that like with the resources given, how much drive and effort did they put into it? And like if we give him the resources we have, what can he turn into? So if there are PRS guys or gals out there that are interested, I know there's some awesome juniors in the country that are kind of coming up and stuff. Like keep at it, like talk to us if we're at matches. I know some people don't think I'm all that approachable, but I'm not that bad. Like come and talk to us, like let us know that you're interested. We're always kind of putting our feelers out there.
great.
I love it, man.
Good.
Nice. That's an awesome opportunity, and I'm sure there's somebody somewhere right now that's just like, oh, there's my life plan. We're
Yep.
set.
Yep.
Yeah, right.
What do you say? Buy all the 105s and all the Varget I can, and what was that?
Yeah, dude.
Oh, 3 at a time. 3 at a time barrels. Gotcha. All right.
Yeah, exactly, right. Like, yeah.
Yeah. I'm sitting here trying not to be rude, trying to stay focused, but I'm like making mental notes of like when to come back to re-listen to this so I can write down this advice later.
Yeah, you're like, yeah, what's the Army's age of entry?
No, not for that. No, I'm good.
I'm kidding, man.
So we're about at the midpoint of the show. Remember, if you're watching us live on Facebook, ask any questions you may have in the comment section of this video, and we'll ask it live on air. Other ways to catch us, you can always check back on the Shooter's Mindset Facebook page. The videos stay up there forever, and we usually upload to all of the podcast apps the night after the show.
You're right.
And then everything eventually ends up on the Shooter's Mindset YouTube page, so that's a great place to look up past episodes. So you have live questions. Corey, did you have a list of lives?
Oh yeah, we got a list of lives. All right. Travis Ritter wants to know if you prefer shooting civilized or savage, break or suppressor.
I'm suppressor all day. I shoot the ace break, so shout out to those guys. Austin Orgain, Austin Bushman, Clay Blackheader. It's an awesome product, and if I'm going to be brutally honest, it is not the best recoil reduction device out there at all. There are a lot of breaks that work better, but because of past experiences and stuff, and like my time in the military, like some of the blasts and stuff, man, I can't do it. I get done after day one, and I feel punch drunk. So I do still shoot a break to stay competitive. I haven't been able to get one of the new Thunder Beast breaks, you know, the break suppressors or anything like that, or the 419. I haven't played around with it, but everything outside of a match, everything I shoot with a can, everything. The only exception to that is I have a practice gun and I use a Surefire flash hider on it. It is my recoil enhancer. It's absolutely terrible. It's probably the worst thing you could ever put on the end of the gun, but it's a great training aid. To answer his question, yeah, I'm suppressed all day, every day. I know Ben feels the same way. Just the brakes, they're great. It's not a bash on any of the brake companies, but you're going to feel punch drunk to an extent. And I feel like it's probably like energy drinks with our generation. I bet you in 20 to 30 years from now, there's going to be studies and stuff talking about TBIs and the micro TBIs and the overpressure that some of these brakes are giving and how bad they are for us.
Bro, I could get on that soapbox all day. We're gonna wait for that one.
Oh, yeah.
Tate Streeter wants to know, I guess, who are the two coolest people you've ever been to the Delta Lounge with?
Oh man, that's a good one. I would say that it was our an Irish bartender there.
Yeah,
She was really, really cool. And then I'd say second to that was this larger, awkwardly athletic guy that's, you know, for his size, that, you know, he still holds it against me a little bit that I don't run a 2-lug, but he's one of the best guys in the entire sport. And I am now fortunate to receive a few of his actions off prize tables that he sponsored. And the most recent one being off this last table, which I'm extremely fortunate for. So thanks to guys like him that sponsor the sport. My dad actually has a pretty kick-ass 6.5 PRC impact action build. So shout out to Tate. I appreciate all you do for the sport, buddy. Thank you very much.
Yeah, for sure. It's one of the best.
You know who he is?
I've heard of his name once. Yeah.
Speaking of national champions.
Yeah. Which actually, that's probably to throw this out there too. I know I almost ruined Tate's picture, but pretty special moment for him. You want to talk about all the podium guys in the top 10 with impact?
Yeah, I mean, that was cool. So I had heard after the match that Tate was shooting good, and I think it was four or five stages in, he couldn't even think straight because he was just worried about his shooters performing well, which, I mean, that says a lot to, like, from my perspective, like, he just has such a passion for his actions that he wants success, whether he gets it or, you know, his shooters. And he was able to get 8 out of the top 10 impact guys getting bullets this year, which is kind of mind-blowing, but it's a true testament to the actions are ultra reliable, ultra accurate, and I mean, they just, I don't know, they have never let me down.
Make a gunsmith's job easy.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, even for myself, I even have my personal actions there and I just do pre-fits. Like I don't even touch the actions in that gunsmith part because all the actions are that close to each other. So I mean it's awesome.
Yeah.
Same with Terminus.
I got
Terminus, I mean I mainly do pre-fits for his stuff too. Like the manufacturing across multiple brands is pretty impressive nowadays. We're really spoiled and lucky to have a lot of good options.
Yeah, it's wild that you can just buy them. So one more question, or sorry, I guess live. Jonathan Thornton said the AMU trailer is very accommodating at Camp Perry Nationals. Y'all apparently helped him change a gas tube and gas block after Nationals was done, because you had the tools there to do it. So he was very appreciative of that.
Cool. Yeah, heck yeah.
It's awesome. Yeah, shout out to the service rifle guys and all the gunsmiths over there. They're awesome. It's a big team to keep up with, so those gunsmiths do a lot of work over there.
So now that the 2024 season is over, are you guys taking a little bit of break where we hop back into matches? And then also, you're jumping right back into it?
Eco.
Yeah, it still doesn't feel completely over yet.
Over.
I had told myself kind of all year this year that I was going to take a break, no matter what the outcome after. And this was like kind of a cool way to end the season for me, but it's still definitely not over. We still got one more big match, and I've kind of decided to at least not touch a gun for another 2 weeks, and then kind of revamp up for the AG Cup.
No, I kind of got a fire in me at the moment, so I'm gonna hit it pretty hard for the AG Cup and
Yeah.
picked up some stuff to kind of help me out for that. And I like we're also too like to add perspective, we're also at very different points in our careers and lives, I guess you could say, right? Like Ben's a father of 3, you know what I mean? And you know, his oldest boy's getting to the point that, you know, he knows when dad's there or gone. I'm going to speak for you on that part. But
No,
like, you know what I mean?
sure.
Like he's also shot for 10 years, whereas like I said, my first pro match was in 21. So I'm kind of just at a different point. Like I feel like my time to chase it is now, you know what I mean? So I want to hit it pretty hard. There's still some growing pains, right? Learning when to be hungry, when you're burnt out, when knowing enough's enough. And I definitely don't have that mastered at all, but I think I'm getting a little bit better at it, hopefully.
Yeah. I wish you both luck.
Thank you.
Thank
What
you.
are your personal and professional goals for this next year coming?
This year was really cool. Like we hit on, you won it in your first 3 years, basically.
Mhm.
It took me 10, and that was basically my goal from the inception of my shooting career. And to kind of, you know, cross off all the bucket list items, it's kind of a weird, kind of bittersweet point in my career that I kind of have to reanalyze my goals. Obviously, there's always an opportunity to go for another golden bullet, but I think this year I'm gonna force myself to stay off the gun for a couple more months and just relax it and enjoy the moment. Because I mean, it's so hard to do. It's a sport that's almost year round that you can get just so wrapped up in a full time 12 months out of the year, you know, hardcore mentality of I gotta win, I gotta shoot, I gotta win, I gotta shoot. But this is nice to just kind of force myself to take a break and enjoy this and reanalyze my goals.
Personal and professional goals, I suppose. I think one thing that I told myself before the finale, I kind of promised myself is I will never shoot a compromise match again. And I meant that. So if ever it comes up again that I don't feel like I have the perfect gun, perfect ammo, perfect system, perfect everything, Obviously with work and planning, it's a little bit tough to kind of withdraw last minute. So all that means is more responsibility on my part, making sure that I'm prepared prior to. And I think I took maybe a little bit too much on my plate this year as far as introducing the NRL matches and a lot of the teaching stuff we do. It's great that we're getting utilized a lot for the teaching. It's very flattering. But it's just Tyler and I. So we got spread pretty thin, and we love helping the groups that we do. So it's hard to say no, but I think making sure that I go into every match as perfect as I can be is huge for me. And the second one being like, I thought the finale was going to be at K&M this year, which I was pretty excited about, but it's going to be at War Rifles, which is, you know, it's still East Coast. I wouldn't call that an East Coast match at all, actually. It's a Northern match, but still, like, it's I like the West Coast matches, but this one, you know, it'll be kind of semi-familiar territory up there. So I'm gonna just kind of rededicate myself to PRS this year, and I'm gonna give it another hard go. Like, I think I left a lot on the table last year, and I don't want to do that again. So I want to have a pretty stellar year this coming year.
Okay. So I guess speaking of the future of the sport, where do you see the sport in 5 years?
Interesting
I
question.
think it's only going up, honestly. Over a 10-year period, it's kind of been weird. I thought there was going to be lulls at certain points, just based on economy and all sorts of anything, component shortage and weird stuff. But I mean, it continues to kind of impress me, and I love it. I hope it continues to just keep booming and gaining popularity. I think it's such an attractive sport to get into, and I really just hope it keeps progressing. And I think it will. I think the people are such a huge driving factor. The coolness of the match, like there's such a diversity in these matches. Like throughout the entire country, you get a different match every single time you show up. So there's always an element of excitement factor in there too. So yeah, I hope it just keeps booming.
Yeah. Where do I see it in 5 years? I think one, and I talk about this with people often, the amount of support we get from sponsors still blows my mind. The fact that the
It's
prize tables
wild.
it's insane. Like the fact that it's still as healthy as it is to me is like, I don't know how they do it. I really don't. And I talk with USPSA guys and 3 gunners, like all my buddies at work, and they are all jealous of our prize tables. And I know I've said this before. I said it last year at the finale speech. Like, I really hope people are reaching out and letting the sponsors know what it means to them. Because I don't know if it's sustainable. I hope it is, but I don't know if it is. I mean, I hope the sponsors are getting a good ROI out of it. I hope they're getting more out of it than what they're putting on the table. Because our tables are very fat. They really, really are. Like it's awesome. We're very fortunate to have that. So in the next 5 years, I hope that doesn't decrease. I hope it goes on the up and up for them. But something I would like to see in the next 5 years is, and I'll rock the boat a touch with this one, something needs to change a little bit with the scoring potentially. Whether that's adapting the kind of 50-50 style scoring that the IPRF has used, or whether something better gets presented. I do think something needs to change just a little bit. We're still just on a binary scoring system, and I think a natural progression of that sport would be something a little bit more complex.
So are you wanting to introduce time?
I don't think time plus would be possible. I would like to think it would be, but then you would get a lot of kickback that it wouldn't be the precision rifle series anymore. It'd be the go fast rifle series, which I agree to an extent. But I think if that's the case, there's been a couple matches we shot. The AG Cup is a great example where you go into certain stages knowing that you're either not going to be able to finish or clean it. There's several stages that are 12-round stages, and you know damn well that you don't have enough time to do it. So it now forces you into a compromise stage plan. What are you going to try and do? Do I want more solid positions? Do I want less shots and more hits? Do I kind of want to get sloppy with it and maybe gamble and see if I can get potentially more impacts? Like it forces you into an uncomfortable position. But I've talked about it with guys on the team, right? Like let's say you go to a major 3-gun match or like a major USPSA match. What's the likelihood that no one that's ever taken a podium or a top 10 wins that match? What's the likelihood of that happening?
Very, very, very low unless you get the wonder kid doing it.
Yeah, I asked the guys in the office, and the response I got was Powerball.
Yeah,
by a lotto ticket. Whereas in the PRS, it happens.
Mm-hmm.
And why does it happen? It's like, well, because there's a certain element of luck to our sport that's hard to get rid of. So I think we need to add something other than just impacts into the scoring, because that's all that's factored into scoring is just impacts.
Right. I think stages at the very minimum would become interesting if there were different plans on them. Like what you were talking about with an uncleanable stage.
Which, like, to play devil's advocate, I do understand that if matches were the way that Ben and I like them, we'd probably kill the sport in one season.
No one would clean anything.
Yeah, no.
I was to do this Ice Age.
Yeah, they would be too hard. Yeah, they would suck a lot. So there's
does
a
the stage have to be? Does the stage have to be cleanable, or does every target have to be hittable?
Can we have 20-round stages, and you're going to have people finishing with 10 to 18 shots, maybe.
Like I don't know. Like I don't. Like you said, does every target have to be hittable? Yes. Does every stage have to be cleanable? Not necessarily.
Yeah,
like
I think
I think and I know there's a lot of kind of East versus West Coast disparity with this, or disagreement as far as match styles, right? Where guys will say that, well, I took second place, but I only got 95%, and then you shoot somewhere back west, or somewhere right around College Station, and you get like 50th place, and you still get 90-something%. And it's like,
bro, I was one shot behind, and I was 5th this weekend.
Yeah, right. You know what I mean? And it's like, so I get the argument, which I think the blended scoring system helps with that. So maybe that would be a step in the right direction, but I do think something needs to change just a little bit as far as the overall scoring and structure.
Yeah. Kind of back in the sport in 5 years, what are the chances of the AMU doing a PRS match, kind of like the action shooting team did with Benning?
0.
Okay.
I think it'd be cool. It'd be a logistical kind of probably nightmare, to be honest.
0.
We have the ranges on Fort Benning to accommodate it. It would just be a logistical kind of nightmare, I think, just because they're so spread out.
Yeah, it's
I've always kind of fantasized about that, though. But that's a cool.
I fantasize about being able to go to work and shoot past 500. It would be great. No, it's just because of the range limitations, and like that is the side of it that's bigger than us and bigger than AMU, right? It's like the defense of our country is still what takes precedence over everything. So it's an active duty base, and that's what they are, is they're forcing readiness, increasing lethality, and that's their primary goal. So because of that, a lot of the way that Benning's shaped is it's actually a circle. And the inner of the base is all an impact area, and it actually all kind of points inward if you look at like a big 30,000-foot view. So because of that, in order to run ranges or to go down range, to change steel, to do whatever, you need a range safety officer, you need an RTO on the comms, you need a fire crew, you need a gate card. Like the logistics of just holding the range itself is a nightmare. So it's just not a reality, unfortunately. Would it be cool? Yeah, absolutely. I think what would be better is if they did want to do something like that we would show a partnership with like the arena training facility or something like that. They got Robert Brantley down there now, which is awesome. And I really hope they get PRS matches back there yesterday, because I think they're an awesome facility, and with Robert there's no reason they shouldn't. And that facility is awesome. Like it encompasses a lot of what the Southeast is all about. If people don't think there's wind there, look at my Instagram. There's videos of
wind.
Porta potties.
I love that video.
Oh yeah, it's an awesome
That was
place.
awesome.
Yeah, man, Eddie down there that runs the facility, that's kind of the primary range managers, great people. He's a retired sergeant major out of Ranger Regiment, and he's a great guy, and they just have an awesome facility. So I think maybe something with like them partnering with a range like that to do it would be awesome. But you kind of need the privatized range and the flexibility of that in order to accommodate it. It's the same reason, like all the reasons that Fort Benning multi-gun went away would probably be the same reasons we probably wouldn't be able to facilitate one.
That's fair. One of my dreams.
I came in right as multi-gun went away, and all I ever heard from the 3 gunners was just total positivity, and they wish it would come back, that it was awesome.
I definitely like the idea of doing it at arena, or if you wanted to do it on a base, you know, there's Fort Gordon or whatever they call it here now, Eisenhower, where they've had Mammoth for many years that is now Mammothless. So, lightning question. If you could only pick one for the rest of your life, hunting or competition, what would y'all choose?
We said competition, does it just have to be in PRS? Like PRS competition?
Competition in general. So you could shoot any kind of competitions that you want for the rest of your life.
That's a tough question. I guess it depends on where we are in the state of this country, but I mean, like
that's a good point.
We're at a great we're just at an awesome time where we're able to do competitions as much as we are. It's going to be hard for me to say that I would choose hunting over competition, but I don't know. I love competing. I think it's very addicting. I love hunting too, but I mean, for me, it's kind of like a 90-10 thing. Competition takes precedence over hunting with where I'm at right now.
Yeah.
I probably hunt more than 99% of people, but if you ask my brother would tell you I'm not even anymore. So there's a curve there. There's people like my brother who he just works to be able to afford to hunt. You know what I mean? So like, like him and my dad are in Colorado right now, actually, like on an 8-day hunt. So like he just he just hunts from hunt to hunt to hunt. So like, do I love hunting? Yeah. Did I grow up doing it? For sure. But I think like I've always done some type of competition, right? And shooting filled a void that I had prior, filling like like combative sports and things like that, right? Like growing up wrestling and fighting, like shooting filled that void. So for me, it would be competition without a doubt. Like it's funny because like we get with our team and everybody else is always interested in every sport other than their own. Like our one of our 3 gunners right now, he's on a big kick. Like he wants to get a PRS gunner. Dude's always like, all the pistol guys want to get long guns or shoot long range. And I'm like, man, that's a sick 2011. How do I get one of those? It's like we'll go to matches, like get cool prizes, and it's just like a round robin of like trading to all the cool stuff we don't get. You know what I mean? So I would say, it's competition for sure for me.
Competition just drives so many different aspects. It drives military, it drives hunting. I don't know. There's something about it that you take guys that are the most passionate about their specific sport. It just like, it's infectious. It just, drives every other discipline.
And to kind of throw that on with a side of it that applies back to our work, right? I talk about this a lot with guys because I hear people all the time that like, oh, PRS open, they're 30-pound rifles, they're this, they're that, they're 4-ounce triggers. It's so stupid. And it's like, you do understand that open shooting divisions are meant to drive what is possible.
Yeah.
Like if you look at USPSA Open, right, you pull it out and does it look like a gun that's straight out of like, like stormtroopers or something? Yeah, for sure. It looks like a space gun. But like the reality of it is the amount of soccer moms out there that have red dots and compensators on their carry pistols is unreal. Right. And where did that come from? That came from open shooting sports divisions that basically cut the learning curve of how to get better. Right. Like how many people, people make a joke all the time, oh, it's barricade bench rest. It's like, well, like there's a alumni at our work that's working on a contract right now for, like an elite military group. And if you look at the rifle, it's like, well, all these things that he's applying, like full-length integrated arc rails, like an integral recoil lug and rail. Like, where did all this come from? Well, it came from open shooting sports divisions. That's where a lot of it came from. So I think that competition is so important for that, because you find things that were stupid at one point, right? Like, you could say that, carrying a tripod around is stupid. Why would I ever use a tripod? There's a lot of people that will not hunt and will not go on a mission or go on target without one now. Oh, a support bag is stupid. You know how many people will not go on patrols without them now? It's a requirement.
Stupid to not.
Right. You know how many people said kestrels were stupid? I know that's crazy for like a modern PRS generation to think that, but when I grew up in the sniper community, you know how many people thought kestrels were worthless? Like
a crutch.
For sure, they were a crutch. They said you don't need that. Like, for a lot of people that don't know this, dope is called data on previous engagements. And you got that from starting at the 100-yard line and walking back 100 meters, shooting it and writing it down and knowing what it was. A kestrel was not a required item. Chronograph didn't exist back then. So I think a lot of people forget where we came from and don't understand like the way forward in that sense. So I think that's why competition is so important.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that when I first got into competitive shooting, I got into USPSA first, and I'm a tinkerer. Like, I don't own anything that's not modified, but like, I was shooting for personal protection, and I didn't want to take the gun that my life depends on and be like, oh, let's see what happens if I take my Dremel here and do this and do that. But then I got into this, I was like, oh, I could buy another gun and do all sorts of dumb stuff to it. And obviously not the same level as like the AMU experimenting and learning better things, but like, I taught myself a lot of things about firearms and how they function just because I built a gun to do it with. So
Discovery learning is so important.
I love it. That's how I learned so much stuff, because I've messed up so many things in my life, and now I'm smarter than before. All right, let's see if we have any more lives.
There's a lot of arguments about scoring going on that I don't want to get to.
I apologize, but I did give the partial disclaimer that I'm probably going to rock the boat. But
we like the boat. We like
you should have covered my mouth.
Like rocking sometimes, you're good.
But no, I mean, like, it's one of those things where we have such a large community and everybody views everything differently. And as people vocalize their opinions on how things currently are, we'll learn how to, other people might not have thought, like, dang, I didn't even think that, like, in this particular situation, it would have been cooler if they did scoring this way. And, you're not saying that, like, our scoring is garbage and it's crap and it has to be stopped right now, but there's room to evolve on what we have. Better and help grow our sport. And, talking about stuff makes it, makes us grow. I like this. Our sport is Formula One meets Baja bench rest. That's pretty cool. All right, I think we're good to go ahead and wind this one down to shout outs. Corey, we'll go ahead and start with you.
I'm going to shout out Prentice Wink because he puts up with a lot of complaints, all from me. But I love you, buddy.
Camden, who do you got?
I want to shout out Kahl and Ben for being on tonight. Congratulations to you both for winning a golden bullet. It is incredible. And thank you for being on here tonight and sharing your thoughts and for growing our sport.
Thank you. Appreciate you having us on.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Ben, how about you?
It'll be pretty short, but Shooter's Mindset, again, thank you for having us. My family always been very supportive. I have to give out and give the glory to God first and foremost. AMU, obviously, we've talked about it quite a bit on this podcast. They are an asset that has boosted our skill set. I don't even know how many fold, I don't know, tenfold.
Yeah.
It's been such a huge resource. Thank you. again, sponsors, you're the glue that holds us together, this sport. Obviously anybody that's RO'd, all my friends that shoot the sport, all the guys that I, meet every match. It's such a cool and unique sport that, I don't know, you meet so many like-minded people that it's a family more than anything. So shout out to everybody that shoots the sport. And if you're curious, you've never shot the sport, jump in, get a gun, borrow a gun, just jump in and shoot the sport. It's amazing. Such a cool community that's changed my life. So yeah, I'll leave it at that.
And Kahl?
I'll probably shout out Ben, because if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't be on this podcast. So he had asked me if I would do it with him, and I told him in a lot of ways I felt like no, like it was kind of stealing his glory. This was his moment, this is his golden bullet, and it should be his platform. But we probably made this podcast much more enjoyable for everyone to listen to. So thanks for bringing me
Well,
on.
I mean, it really is. I don't know if we overstated it enough, but it's an honor to shoot with you day in, day out, at least at these matches, and then get first 2 years in a row. I mean, seriously,
Yeah, like
it's hard to overstate how much or how hard that is. So, I mean, it's an honor to share that spotlight with you.
yeah, like all jokes aside for everybody, it's like, man, I sound like a broken record, but people all the time are like, man, if I had that, I could do it too, or this or that. And it's like, maybe you could. There's a lot of guys that are very good, like maybe they could. But if you look at everybody in the top 10, almost all of them shoot for a living in one capacity or another. Whether it's the companies they're sponsored by, the companies they work for, the companies they own, everyone that has had that level of success has dedicated themselves to the sport almost completely. So to be able to be successful in that realm is incredibly difficult. And it's tough too, because a lot of people that shoot different shooting disciplines, like Corey, you probably know this really, really well. Like it's hard for like a pistol shooter to understand some of the intricacies of me bitching about trying to get better components or this or that, you know what I mean? It's hard for people to understand. So it's nice to have somebody like Ben, because we can talk to each other and we hear each other's, well, I shouldn't say he listens to my bitches, grabs nuts, complaints, and so, yeah, it's good. So it's super healthy. So shout outs, super fortunate for Ben and our relationship, and for him spinning me up all the barrels that he does. It's awesome. I don't know. Well, actually, I know. I don't think I would be where I'm at if it wasn't for the support that I have from AMU and from him and from the guys. And kind of the other shout out again to the sponsors out there. If you guys are watching, I probably sound like a broken record again, but I don't care. Like it's really, you guys keep the sport lucrative. You make other shooting sports around us jealous. And I think as long as we continue on this upward trend, the goal would be to be like archery one day, right? If you look at archery, if you want to match this contingency programs you have through sponsorships and stuff, I mean, you can fully fund a lifestyle and career off a sport like that. So I think if we continue in the light that we are, and we take some of the things that have been shown to us by the live scoring from Impact, or like the coverage that Shooter's Mindset had at the AG Cup last year, I think that's kind of the next evolution of the sport to monetizing it to an extent. It's like make it more spectator friendly in that sense.
Yeah.
So thank you guys for the Shooter Mindset, kind of giving us this platform and letting us talk, and kind of growing awareness to how awkward him and I are together and how much the sport means to us.
I have no idea.
They'll have no idea. They'll have no idea.
All right.
Jay, what are your shout outs?
Well, everyone stole all of mine. So I'd just like to shout you two out. You're such an adorable couple.
We thought about opening this one up really awkward.
No,
Like,
Oh,
Next podcast.
next podcast. Thank you to you guys for taking the time to come on here and chat with us on this Tuesday evening. And I don't think I could say thanks to the sponsors anymore because you kind of drove that one home pretty good. But thanks to the PRS for giving us everything. And if there are no more on the live side, I believe that will be a wrap for episode 452. And we will see you guys next time.